Welcome, and we had a little rough start, but it's a celebratory time here in the Caribbean right now, and I think the entire Caribbean is celebrating with us today because we are live in studio, and we have a new Archbishop, a brand new Archbishop-elect of the Archdiocese of Castries-St. Lucia, the Most Reverend Gabriel Malzaire, and he's on set with us this morning, and also he succeeds His Grace Archbishop Robert Rivas, who is now in St. Vincent. So Archbishop-elect is talking to us from New York City, and we have from St. Vincent, we have Archbishop Robert Rivas with us here. Are you in St. Vincent?
I'm in St. Lucia.
Oh, you're in St. Lucia.
I am in St. Lucia.
You're in St. Lucia.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, and also with us this beautiful, beautiful day, we have Ronald Novell from the Catholic Communications in St. Lucia, and our own Raymond Sims from CAMSA, the Catholic media here. So welcome, and it's a great day in the Caribbean as we celebrate. And I know we're live in St. Lucia, Dominica, St. Vincent, Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad, St. Vincent, and to celebrate this great news and all that's happening here with us. So welcome. And I just want to ask Archbishop, the Most Reverend Gabriel Malzaire, how does it feel to be returning home to your people?
Yeah, this is the, it is becoming a very usual question to me within the last couple of hours. I have responded to it by saying it is a kind of bittersweet feeling in the sense that they both are dioceses that I love, people that I love. Having been in Dominica for 19 years, it means that relationships have been built, that I have come to know people. It's a place that I love very much, the things that I've done with the people. So thinking of leaving them it has its own repercussions on the psyche. Although it has not happened because I'm still there technically, but I know the time will come when I will have to move completely. Well, maybe the little consolation to that is the fact that I'm still the apostolic administrator of the diocese until a new bishop is named. And we don't know how long that will take. So there'll be a little back and forth with Rosa for a while. But the time will come when I will have to leave. But maybe the question of the apostolic administratorship is good in the sense that the shift will be gradual. On the other hand, the question of moving to St. Lucia it has its own feeling associated with it, in the sense that I was explaining to Archbishop Rivas earlier on that for my 37 years as a priest, I've only worked in St. Lucia for 6 years. So most of my time has been out. So going back home, there is a feeling that, yes, I'm going back to work with my people and to do whatever needs to be done to proclaim the message of Christ in the way that he wants me to. So it's that has a good feeling to it. Whenever I go to St. Lucia, just the idea of going home, and by home I don't mean simply St. Lucia, but I mean Monrepo, going to my home with my family, there's a good feeling to it. So it's very much packed, that experience of this announcement of becoming the Archbishop of Castries is very loaded. So it has its bitter feeling and the sweet feeling as well.
Yeah, and it's in the world right now, and we can't not mention in the world right now is challenging. There's so many challenges right now in the world, you know, and the Caribbean has not been spared. In fact, I think we are in the middle of it all. And so with all the pandemic and so, and your people, you know, going back, sometimes, you know, we think that we've climbed to the mountaintop, but when you've climbed to the mountaintop, it gets very lonely up there. And then you look at your people and you look at your people out there in Castries, St. Lucia, and indeed the whole suffrage sea, including the Kingstown. And so you look out there, and what do you see of some of the challenges we face in the Caribbean and in our part of the world right now in terms of our, you know, our spirituality, our hopes, our dreams?
For one, I mean, let us just start from the physical point of view. With the present pandemic, it has just changed the worldview. It has changed, you know, how we view church, how we see our ministry, how we respond to people, the needs that people have. So that by itself is a challenge. Then we have the challenge of media. We have the challenge of youth. We have the challenge of family life. Every single aspect of ministry is changing, and we have to adjust and apply what is the best way of ministering to people. And of course, it's a learning experience as well. And in fact, this morning I was speaking with Archbishop, and you know, I was really bringing to the fore the idea of the Holy Father in relation to synodality. And I was saying to him that it was really a good time to reflect on how best to begin a ministry. The focus of the synod, the present synod, is to listen to people, listen to where they are, where they are hurting, where the ministry needs to go, to re-envision church. I think it's just a tremendous opportunity. So it is putting all the challenges that we faced with, whether it is youth, whether it's with adults, with men, with whatever aspect of ministry, to look at it, study it, and see how best we can apply the gospel message to those various aspects of our mission.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to ask another person who is returning home, His Grace Archbishop Robert Rivas, who you succeed, Archbishop Malzaire. And Bishop Rivas, how does it feel to be coming back home to us? I remember, because I'm from the parish of St. Joseph, where you used to be as well. So you did minister to me in St. Joseph. How does it feel to be coming back home?
I woke up this morning singing a happy song. I sang, "This is the day, this is the day that the Lord has made, that the Lord has made." And I raised my hands in praise and thanksgiving. And I prayed for Bishop Gabriel. And I said, "Lord, it's all his." And I thank the Lord for my ministry as bishop. I'm 32 years and just over a month as a bishop in the church. And I was 14 years and some months here as Archbishop of Castries. I think I have played my part. I've done my part. And, you know, letting go now would be part of the reality of my life of retirement. The nuncio tells me I am not retired, but I need to retire, T-Y-R-E. In other words, put on new wheels and go where the Lord wants to take me. So I am just open and ready to go. And I have already written my calypso, you know, for going home. You know, you heard about it.
No,
Trinity
but would you sing it for us, Bishop? Would you sing it for us?
Are coming home. It may be tomorrow. I have waited long but now I cannot wait any longer. I'm on my way. I'm coming home soon with a clear declaration. I'm coming home. I'm coming to stay. And you know what? I started learning to play the tenor pan on Monday, and I've had my first 4 lessons, and I'm reading the notes. So I am coming ready to play pan in Trinidad.
Amazing, thank you. And you know, the last time, if I could remind you, Archbishop Rivas, the last time you sang for me, we were on top of the mountains at Mount St. Benedict, which you climbed. So I know you have an eye for adventure.
Oh my gosh, yes, yes. But no, this is a very special day. It's special not just for me, because, you know, my life has been poured out in service and love and giving, and will continue to be. I'm not going to stop serving, and I'm not going to stop giving, and I'm not a lazy bishop. You know, I will be giving and giving until it's time to go home. But, you know, it's a special day to see Gabriel, my brother Bishop, you know, coming back to his home, to his people, to serve them as their bishop. You know, it is a joy for the fruitfulness of the church that our Caribbean church has produced sons who can now lead our churches, our local churches in the region. And we have to continue to promote that vitality and that life for our church, so that the church will never be without shepherds to guide and protect and feed and lead the flock.
Yes, but Raymond, I know I could hug the show for the whole half an hour or so, but Raymond?
I just have one question for you, Archbishop-elect Gabriel Malzaire. My question is, I know you may have a sense of what's going on in your homeland, but is there any area that you're going to be focusing on as you begin this new responsibility?
Well, there's so many things that I want to focus on, you know, because I think the ministry is multiple. I think the area of youth is something that needs to be looked at. The area of family, because I think family is very basic to our ministry. I mentioned earlier the question of the men in our society. We'll be looking at family as a whole, but I think men is an issue. It's an area that we need to focus, because we know that a lot of our men are falling through the cracks, and as to how that is going to evolve, I think it's a question of putting the energies that are necessary in those areas, and then vocation. Okay. I think we have been lagging behind in that regard. I mean, as an entire Caribbean society. In fact, some time ago, or a couple of years ago, we had a seminar on vocation and looking at the culture of vocation, which we realized is not as strong in the Caribbean as it should. I think it's an area that we need to look at. Just to name a few areas that I really think that needs some concentration.
And what about the church in terms of poverty alleviation and reaching out to people who...
that of course, that's definite.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, Archbishop Gabriel, what about right now we're in the time of synod, you know, and you're right in the middle, and we are all right in the middle of synod, and listening to the persons not only within our Catholic Church, but listening generally outside, and listening to the voice of not only but as we say Catholic, universal, listening to the voice of the people out there as well. And you're quite right, because having been involved in synod myself, and listening to some of the interviews we've been having with men, I think they feel there are a lot of needs out there as well. And there are also a lot of needs within a wider society outside of the church as well, and our involvement as church in that landscape. How do you see that?
Yes. Yeah, I think, I mean, I've mentioned that, and we must, first of all, approach with the ministry, the fact that um, times are changing, and we need to understand those times and see how best way to apply our ministry to it. I think that the social media plays a very great role in how people see things right now, and the media has to be very, very central to whatever area that we see our ministry taking us, whether it is the youth, whether it is the men, and as has been pointed out by Raymond, dealing with the poor. How do we bring people to a sense of belonging, a sense of self, a sense of worth, a sense of taking them from A to B, and they would see themselves on the same path of salvation as we ourselves perceive ourselves to be. So these are some of the areas that we really need to focus on. How best to bring about the message of the kingdom to the various aspects of ministry as we know it.
Yes, and the challenges are many out there. As you return to St. Lucia, what do you have a message for your flock as you come in, as you return after being outside for so very, very long and taking back all that knowledge,
Yes.
all that wisdom, all that experience from outside, and as you go back home, do you have a message for your people? What do you have a message for them?
Yes, well, basically, I mean, I would like to see us building a church together, to build a church where we feel that sense of belonging, that sense that, I'm getting some calls there. Yeah, sorry, I mean, some calls were coming through.
Congratulations calls, that's all.
Yes. Yeah, so I was saying, to develop a church where people have a sense of belonging. And I'm not saying that it has not happened it's not in process, but I think to a great extent that people still feel that the church is out there, the clergy are out there, or religious are out there, and many people see they're coming to church as like a gas station. They come to get little graces and then they go out, to live the rest of the week. But to develop a method, a strategy where people can feel that this church belongs to me, and that I'm going to support the church in its ministry in entirety, whether financially, socially, spiritually, or otherwise. How do we form our people to come to that? So that I see myself as growing spiritually, and becoming that whatever I become is what the church becomes. So I really want to say to the people of St. Lucia, let us work together. Let us build this church together. Let us make the Archdiocese what God wants it to be, and so that no one would feel that they do not belong, and see themselves as part of the process. So I would really like to develop a very inclusive church, that where everybody feels that they are part of the development of that church. So this is really my general plan for the Archdiocese in St. Lucia.
Thank you very much. And I just want to ask, because I know what time is going, I just want to ask Archbishop Rivas, at this time, you're also, Archbishop, coming back to a very different landscape here in the Caribbean, in Trinidad as well, where social media, where the church is, a lot of the church happens on social media, like for example right now, and on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram, and masses are down to 50% on a good day. You know, like for example, in our parish, we have 9 masses a weekend because of the size of, you know, to try to accommodate persons. How do you see yourself? Do you see that as a challenge for you? And what is your message for the people in this kind of landscape?
Yeah. Well, I recall about 3 years ago, as bishops of the Antilles, we had this vision for the church in a digital milieu. Little did we realize that our time frame for educating and preparing our bishops and clergy and lay faithful for that digital milieu would be just brought upon us, you know, through a little tiny virus that we can't even see. And suddenly everything has changed completely, where we had actually total lockdown or partial lockdown or diminished numbers of like 7 people for Easter. Imagine that, 7 people to celebrate Easter, you know. And, you know, the whole thing it was completely a radical change. And the thing is that the media just opened up to the church, and the church moved into it like a duck to water. And, you know, there's no turning back. There's no turning back. And today what I see is that bishops, media, digital bishops, and, you know, we used to talk about the digital natives and all this, the young people, but, you know, some of our priests and religious sisters and even bishops have become very savvy with the media. But, you know, the media for me and all these platforms and that, we shouldn't worry too much about the technical side of it, because we have people who are capable of that. What we have to be concerned about is to make sure that we have the message. We have the message to communicate, and that we have the heart to communicate it. We have the spirit to communicate it, and that we are going to take every opportunity we have to use what is available to get the message out there, because the message is to bring hope to people. To, you know, we have to be concerned about the salvation of others. This is my Dominican charism, you know, and I'm very happy with it. And, you know, my whole life has been a gospel life, especially as a priest and a bishop. And like returning to Trinidad, I will not be presumptuous about how I'm going to fit in, where I'm going to fit in, how I'm going to address all these media challenges or the challenges of our time. We have tried to meet them here in St. Lucia. I have had experience of 3 local churches now. I've served in St. Vincent for 22 years, 18 years as residential bishop, 4 years as apostolic administrator. I served in Barbados for 6 years as apostolic administrator, and I'm now going to I've been here 14 years, and I'm going to be serving for a few months as apostolic administrator. So, you know, in terms of experience, you know, I have been blessed, you know, and I have been blessed with the different cultural flavors of our Caribbean region. So, you know, I know some churches intimately. And going back home I was 19 years a priest in Trinidad before I became a bishop. And so I'll go back open and ready. You know, one of the things that I got the COVID virus, and I had 14 days in quarantine. And it's just over like 10 days now that I'm out of the quarantine. But I described my experience as being in a bunker. And I described to my people what it was like to be in that bunker. And for the first 10 days, you know, nothing happened because I couldn't do anything. I was sick. But then I woke up on the 11th day, and it was like resurrection. And immediately, you know, my creative, what they call it, adrenaline began to flow. And I started writing. And I've come out of COVID-19, that 14-day retreat, with a book,
Amazing.
The Face of a Listening Church. You know, so I am going to write that book. And if you would allow me, you know, when I come to Trinity, I'm going to bring my gifts and I'll use them. And if Archbishop Jason wants me to use my gifts and he gives me the scope to do it, I will do it. If my Dominican brothers want me to use my gift and they would facilitate it for me, I would make my gifts available. You know, I wrote this little thing and I would like to share it with you because Bishop-elect has been talking about synodality and the challenges of the church and how we as archbishops or bishops or priests are addressing this, and other brothers in the church, that the church is our church. I also have that sense of, you know, that in listening, we have to listen to the hurts too, you know, and I wrote this little poem. It's only three verses. The Spirit compelled me to look. So this is me coming back to Trinidad, and I'm not coming back blind, but I know if I'm to see, I need the Spirit, the Holy Spirit to show me where to look, where to go, you know, guide me. So the Spirit compelled me to look where I dared not look, to catch a glimpse of a gaping wound, to feel the pain of aching souls. And I stood speechless, not uttering a word. Sometimes the best response to listening is silent acquiescence. Do not speak if words need to wait. Listen. Then speak healing words that empower and open minds, hearts, and doors to encounter. Listen to the pulse and heartbeat of the downtrodden and overburdened. Let your voices speak. This is a time for listening, and that's the name of the poem. This is a time for listening, for giving grace the space for healing in empty, barren, hurting places.
Thank you.
That's how I'm coming back to Trinidad.
Thank you.
And I will be open to go into those open, empty, barren spaces humbly.
Thank you so much. That is so beautiful, and we so look forward to you coming back. And for those of you now joining us, the entire Caribbean is here celebrating, and we're live in studio, and I know we have Dominica, St. Vincent, Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad, and so online, and we're celebrating our brand new Archbishop-elect of the Archdiocese of Castries, the Most Reverend Gabriel Malzaire, and of course, the suffrage sees include Kingstown, St. Vincent, Roseau Dominica, St. George's Grenada, St. John Basseterre, and Antigua as well. And, you know, Archbishop-elect, I mean, I know you just listened to Archbishop Rivas, and, you know, it's almost like I've done my work, I've come back home. You know, I have done my work and I've come back home. Yeah. What do you see as your, I've done my work, you know, welcome home, good and faithful servant? What would you like to be told?
Well, I mean, I see myself as being in the hands of God to do whatever is to be done. And as I said, was saying this morning, that from the time I was ordained, I said I'm going to go wherever I'm sent and do whatever I'm asked to do from the Lord. And I will say, yes, Lord. So here I am to the people of St. Lucia, and I will serve them in the best way that I can. Of course, the evolution of the plans that I would have for the future, of course, we can discuss that in another forum. But basically, to be in the hands of God, to minister to the people in St. Lucia as best as I can. with the gifts that God has endowed.
Well, I don't know if Raymond has a question to ask, but I would just like to ask one more question before I hand over to Raymond as well.
I have a question, but go ahead, go ahead, Sandy.
Raymond, you go ahead. You go ahead. I'll come after.
Okay. This question actually is for Archbishop Rivas. Archbishop, and where you're considered a creative with your calypso and your pan, your learning the pan and your poetry. But tell me something, what will you miss most when you leave St. Lucia?
The creativity of writing. Because, you know, I've been, as I said, when I came to St. Lucia, you know, there's something in the atmosphere here in St. Lucia that impelled me to be creative as a writer, a poet, a song composer, you know, a calypsonian, you know, and it all happened sitting there, having my breakfast and looking out to the lovely ocean in the morning, the sea, and the hills in front of me, and the skies, and, you know, everything. It was like a Laudato Si. St. Lucia was like Laudato Si for me. And, you know, I will miss that, because it really brought out the creative juices in me. I hope Trinidad will not stalemate it for me.
No, you know, you're coming back in Carnival season, right?
Well, no, I won't be back. I won't be back until around probably the end of April, early May.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
it must be. It
But,
probably
you know,
is the spirit of Derek
thing,
Walcott.
Carnival in COVID. I don't know how I would relate to that. But carnival in good times, you know, outside of all these protocols and that, I'm all for a good mass.
You know, I think that creative spirit must be the spirit of Derek Walcott in there. You know, and he talks about the spirit of the Caribbean.
And, you
but
know,
I want to ask. Archbishop.
I met Derek Walcott when I came here. He invited me to his home, and I presented him with my book called Beautiful the Valley.
Yes.
And he read it, and when I went back another time and I met him, he said the book is beautiful.
Well, the book is beautiful, and it sits on my coffee table, and it's been sitting there since I got an autographed copy of it as well. But I just want to go back to Archbishop Gabriel Malzaire, because, you know, sometimes we have a romanticized version, and we could sell a romanticized version of the Caribbean. But the truth is, and I know you've been very involved in the AAC as well, you've been presiding at the AAC as well, so you have a clear picture of what's going on. And, you know, there is no doubt that there is a kind of hopelessness among our young people right now. There's a kind of, I mean, the schools have been closed for so long. The education system is challenged right now to get, there's a huge number of dropouts throughout the Caribbean. We have the pandemic. We have a kind of hopelessness happening throughout the Caribbean, and which is why, you know, I talked about the whole suffrage season, the whole, and it's not only St. Lucia and Trinidad and St. Vincent or anywhere, but it's a kind of totally throughout the Caribbean. There are a lot of joblessness happening. You know, if you walk on the streets of Trinidad, of St. Vincent, Kingstown, and so vagrancy has increased. And are we seeing a church that needs to leave the buildings? The church that needs to leave the buildings and to walk the streets and to enter into the homes of our people right now, you know? And I'm not talking social media.
No, I think you're hitting the nail on the head in terms of what our pastoral thrust should be. There is no shortage of all the points that you've raised are specific areas of concern, whether it is the youth, I mean, you know, the schools and so forth. These are the precise areas, but it is describing a global picture. It is describing a movement in the world. It's describing what is happening to our people. Now, the question for us is, is our ministry, our mission, meeting those needs? That's the question, really. And I mean, I don't have the answer to those questions, except that we profit from the invitation of our Holy Father to listen and study and dialogue. Unless we do that, and we do that actively and with a concerted effort to make a change, because at the end of the day, we would say that we need conversion. We need whatever we mean by the conversion, whether on the spiritual level or the social level. But it's a question of what kind of ministry do I need to entertain in order to make a difference in those areas of difficulties that we realize. And I think that's where the mission of the church is. Whether we have been doing it to some extent or not, but because of what we are seeing and the direction that the world is going, the direction that our youth are taking, it means that we have not really reached the mark. We still have a lot of work to do. So our work is cut out for us. And I think going to St. Lucia or wherever I may be, the questions will still remain anyway. That we have work to do. We really have work to do. So I do not see going to St. Lucia, and that's what when people ask me, am I happy to go home, whether I feel happy or whatever it is, you know, all I see before me is a church that needs to be built, and a church that needs our efforts, our gifts, our talents, and our concern for that change. Because I don't expect to go honky-dory and find a nice church and a nice comfortable people to welcome me. There is work to be done. And that's the most important thing. There is work to be done. And I look at it with great trepidation, to tell you the truth. Yes. Great trepidation, because I know it's not going to be easy.
Yes.
You know.
And you know, as a wise man once said, if Muhammad won't go to the mountain, then the mountain must go to Muhammad.
Yes.
And is it that we are now seeing a church where people, where we at the church, you know, we have to go out there and be, you know, So I don't know if Raymond has any other questions.
Just to say, you know, that really and truly, and I'm serious about that very often when we get into such position, oh yes, the people are nice, people welcome you, and so on and so forth. But the question is, are we making any change in the lives of people in any significant way that is making the church move a distance forward, so that, you know, that people are being converted, people being touched, people being moved, people are really doing, responding to the gospel message. Are people doing that? Or are we just on the joyride? You know, that's the question for me, really.
Yes,
Sandy, I'd just like you to know that Ronald is here waiting for an opportunity to say something.
Ronald has come on. Okay, Ronald, welcome. And I didn't realize you were there, Ronald. I'm so sorry. So I suppose I'll hand it over to you, Ronald, if you have any questions for our brand new Archbishop-elect.
Firstly, I would like to congratulate him. And there's certainly a sense of excitement here in St. Lucia. Social media has been ablaze since the announcement. So everyone there is much looking forward to see him. But before we end, I have to ask Bishop to be a Timo of Creole. Parce que nous savons qu'il y a tout le monde qui a écouté, ça va dire après-midi.
Oui. Vraiment, vous savez, pour venir achever avec cette lycée, ce n'est pas un bagage qui est bien aisé, parce que peut-être nous avons en promotion de la vie, en la vie au monde. Moi, oui, merci bon Dieu pour que moi manier cela, mais vraiment, ça moi ouais devant moi c'est travail qui nous fait, travail conversion, travail évangélisation en cette lycée. Ça m'a demandé pour toutes ces gens de cette lycée pour travailler avec moi, pour travailler avec tous ces poètes là, avec ces diacres là, ex Malzaire, ex frère en de diocèse là, pour nous vraiment travailler ensemble, pour nous aider l'Église là à avancer, vraiment avancer, pas simplement pour dire nous c'est une belle Église, non, mais on l'Église côté monde qui vraiment vivre la vie de Jésus. C'est ça qui est nécessaire. Et ça veut dire nous pour adresser la vie les pauvres, gens qui a sur la rue, gens qui ont besoin, gens qui ont problèmes sociaux, même gens qui ont problèmes sociologiques, toutes sortes de problèmes. Nous ne pouvons attaquer ces problèmes-là côté yoye, à toute manière, à toute façon. C'est ça qui a vraiment adressé ces problèmes-là, même quand Jésus était fait, a été fait. So, nous avons vraiment demandé tous les peuples ici pour travailler avec moi, avec tous ces prêtres-là, puis les gens qui travaillent à l'église là, pour nous bâtir l'église ensemble. Ce n'est pas l'église prête aux dames, mais on l'église qui l'église, les peuples Saint-Lucie, et qui a invité tout le monde pour participer à la mission de l'église là.
Well, should I ask for translation?
Oh no, that can
Let's just say that he is welcomed home because he understands the language of his people.
Yes. I think that was one of the loveliest moments in our interview today. Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you.
Yes, and I think all we heard, Raymond and myself, and well, I don't know, I'm sure Archbishop Rivas now speaks a little bit of that language, but all we heard is you understand your people and you are going back home, and that is so beautiful. I agree with you, Archbishop Rivas. It was a beautiful moment that you speak the language of your people, and not only the language, but figuratively and emotionally and spiritually, you understand the language of your
Sandy,
people.
could I use an expression that I have learned here? Chebe fo.
Yes. Hold tight.
And that is to tell the new Archbishop to be strong and don't let go of his faith and his life in Christ, but come, fortified in the spirit for the work that is ahead of him.
Yes, and we use those as our closing words to Archbishop Gabriel Malzaire, and to those of us joining us, we as a Caribbean people, as a Caribbean church, we are celebrating today. We are excited today because we welcome our brand new Archbishop-elect of the Archdiocese of Castries, St. Lucia, the Most Reverend Gabriel Malzaire, and the installation will be taking place on Sunday, April the 24th, which is Mercy Sunday. And we welcome, and congratulations. I'm sure the angels are singing. We are so happy to have you, and I'm sure you are so happy to be going back home. And also, we've been talking to His Grace, who Archbishop Malzaire succeeds, Archbishop Robert Rivas of St. Vincent, and he is now going to be, and forgive me for my senior moment, well, I don't know if it's a senior moment, the Apostolic Administrator of Castries until the installation of the new ordinary. So I'm reading it directly off the script here as well. So, and we look forward to welcoming you home with your calypso and your steel pan and your book and all the excitement that you bring, Archbishop Rivas as well. So on behalf, I don't know if Raymond has any closing words, and on behalf of the interviewing team, you just want to say...
Said it. You said it all, Sandy. Congratulations, Archbishop-elect Malzaire, and I will see you, Archbishop Rivas, when you return home. We'll be coming to check on you.
Amen.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
And Ronald, thank you for that very special interview, which I'm sure would have been welcomed as well by the people of St. Lucia. And to all of you viewing, thank you so much for being with us, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more for this. I know it's lighting up social media right now. It's on all the social media pages that I've gone to right now, because it is a beautiful day in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean and St. Lucia and St. Vincent and Jamaica and all the Caribbean islands. Archbishop, thank you so much for taking this time, for joining us. And Bishop Rivas, we look forward to you and to the rest of the team. It was so nice working with you all. God bless.